It's like we're doing some, groundbreaking stuff here.
And then sometimes women roll with the men.
I'm so triggered.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mark, and this is
Mark. Mark too.
Welcome to Florida's Fittest. And after 2020 and years of playing into the patriarchy, we finally succumbed. And the woke culture has finally gotten the best of us. And we realized that we had one female guest, and then we kind of had another female guest who kind of had a chaperone, so that didn't really count. So we now finally have a full-on female guest who is actually a very...
I had a chaperone.
Yeah. The rest of us.
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot we even interviewed.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, anyway.
I don't even think to them.
Anyway,
well,
so here we are.
That's
We actually have a very strong and empowered young lady. Everything she does every day is actually very brave and very stunning.
Listen, Mark is sugarcoating the shit out of it.
I know.
She's one of the most lethal women on the planet. Okay?
Nah, I mean,
She's up
there's
I'm gassing you up right now. Just
guessing.
take it.
I'll take it. I'll take it as it is. So I'll take the compliment.
Yeah. But anyways, here we are with Miss Chelsea.
Chelsea, yeah. Did you forget my name?
No, I didn't forget. I was like, how do I fully intro you the appropriate way after all that?
Yeah.
I just said.
It's okay. Well, hello, everyone. This is actually my very first podcast that I've ever been on, so it's going to be
just a
very
normal
interesting.
Conversation with some friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, we're your students, so
Yeah,
it's just
technically.
yeah.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
I feel
It's okay.
awkward like having a teacher in my house.
I don't.
Not even getting into that.
Listen, I'm not in college anymore.
It's okay.
That chapter of my life is over.
Oh my goodness, this has got to a great start.
Well, we've had a chance to shoot the shit for quite a while,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be fair to you guys. So I guess the best thing we can do is kind of start it. Who are you? Where do you come from? And how did you find yourself at this wonderful, crazy place called Jiu Jitsu?
Yeah, so it's quite the story, actually. So right now, I'm an assistant coach at Fellowship Jiu Jitsu, Sarasota. So I work there with my fiancé, your teacher as well, Werther. And so, say hi to Werther.
Hi, Werther. We're being good boys.
Yes, they are. Being very fun. Very respectful. So there I help him out with the kids class. So we help teach the kids. And then I also run a women's only jiu-jitsu program. And so I do that twice a week when it's just all ladies. So we're very lucky in our school that we have a great amount of space so that we can actually have, it's one big open space, but we can have the women in the front, and then as Werther says, all the gorillas can go in the back. So that way at least there's a little bit of separation, but we're not completely closed off, which I think is still good. Because, a lot of the times, yeah, we need something to intermingle.
They function together like a normal society.
What?
Oh wow!
What?
Like I know, it's
Crazy,
like we're
crazy
doing
idea.
some groundbreaking stuff here.
And then sometimes women roll with the men.
Yeah, imagine that. So, so that's kind of what I do now. But backtrack about 4.5 years. So I actually just moved back to Florida from living in another place and bad breakup. So I did what every girl does in a bad breakup. They put all their energy into something, whether it's anything. So for me at the time, it was actually just work. I was able to get a job at a big box gym and LA Fitness, which do not ever work there. Like that.
This conversation about gyms.
Yeah.
If you're young and you want to work as a coach,
yeah.
you really got to do your research.
You do, yeah. I mean, honestly, it was good. I think it's what I needed at the time because I worked super long hours, like 6.5 days a week. So it at least kept my mind off of the drama that I was coming off of, and just the change of having to move back in with my mom, and yeah, and so didn't want to have to deal with that. And so my friend actually, this girl that I worked with, we became friends, and she came in one day with a jiu-jitsu sweater. And so I was like, hey, and I'd watched the UFC previously, so I kind of heard the term jiu-jitsu around, but never quite knew what it was. And so, but I've always heard when they introduced fighters like black belt in Jiu Jitsu. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, but that's cool. Sounds cool, yeah. So I asked her, and she was like, I literally asked her, like, what is Jiu Jitsu? And she's like, oh my God. Like, and it was like the gates opened up. Yeah. And she was like super excited, like, super jazzed. Oh, yeah.
Those are the best kind of people when they're like super passionate about something. Like,
yeah.
It's just contagious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And she's very, like, she has like a bubbly personality anyway, too. So for the next like couple weeks, she was like, you have to try jiu-jitsu. You have to come with me. Like, I've been training for like, I think a year or two at the time.
Nice.
And she's like, you have to come. I'm like, nah, that's okay. That kind of, I don't know. Because I knew as a martial art, it was going to be very male dominated anyway. And I'm like, I'm not walking into a gym full of like sweaty dudes. And that's not, I don't know. That's just, I don't feel comfortable with that.
A lot of patriarchy.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a little too much patriarchy for me to deal with. But no, so, and finally I caved, and because she didn't leave me alone. And so I was like, fine. Like, yeah, I was like, fine, like, I'll go. And I actually was so nervous that I waited out in the car in the parking lot for her to even show up. So I didn't even go in by myself.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I saw that there was like people, because they had windows. I saw there was people in there, like guys. I'm like, I'm just gonna wait right here for my friend. I'm not gonna go in. So I was super intimidated, very intimidated. And then tried my first class. Werther was there. He was the coach at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonder what happened next.
I know. Wonder what happened next. But so he was really nice, very welcoming, and there were actually other girls that were taking the class that day. And I just partnered with my friend. We did takedowns the first day, and I'm like, I don't know about this. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with, yeah, like, I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't feel comfortable with falling. I mean, I never really, I mean, had done dance like throughout, I'm coming up through like elementary, middle, and high school, and into college. So, but I've never really like done tumbling or any type of anything falling.
Yeah.
Yes, I've never fell. Never had to fall. Yeah, we did tumbling.
Yeah, it's like interpretive dance.
Yes, exactly.
Just get slammed on the floor.
Exactly. But to me, sometimes I listen to music too. So yeah. But yeah. So I just wasn't. I'm like, like it's okay. Like I took the class. Or there was like, oh, like, how'd you feel? How'd you like it? And trying to get me to sign up. And I was like, nah. Yeah, exactly. And I was, thankfully he didn't say it like that. He was very like, okay, did you like it? Here's the prices, like very professional, which was really good. Yeah. And so I was like, well, like, I don't know. I'm gonna do the whole classic. I'm gonna think about it. I literally threw
Never
like,
coming back.
I know. And it's funny because I was in sales at the gym, so I literally pitched to him what I hear all day, every day. But I mean, it's true. So I wasn't sure.
Could do more research.
Yeah,
Take a
pretty
moment.
much. Yeah, take a moment to
Not
figure it
quite
out.
sure.
Check my bank account.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the bank account part was true. I was really broke. I was like not making like anything hardly. Then he was like, well, why don't you come back for like another day and, you know, see how everything goes. So I did, and we actually did a submission. I don't quite remember what it was, probably a triangle choke or something, but it was something really cool. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Yeah.
This is useful.
Yeah.
I can do this to people?
I know, I get away with it.
You put him in a triangle, there he was looking at you.
Oh no, it wasn't more.
You're like looking at each other's eyes.
No, oh God, no.
Wow, your triangle is so
No. Look deep in your eyes as you pass out.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't anything like that at the time. But yeah, it was, you know, so I think it was really cool. And I was like, you know, like I've always kind of like wanted to be kind of badass, and this is pretty badass as it gets pretty much too. And, you know, so I was like, well, fuck it, I'll sign up. And then tried the month. And then at first I was really inconsistent because I was busy with work, and my job really, the way that my schedule was, I couldn't come in the evening, which was when all the females actually came, because they actually, I learned they had a women's class at that time, and there was like a good amount of girls there, about like maybe 6 or 7, maybe more girls. And that probably would have been a lot better transition into jiu-jitsu for me, but I just didn't have that chance because of work. So I came in the morning, and of course the only people that came in the morning were all guys, and they happened to be all advanced too. So they were like, no way.
Learn through the pain.
Oh yeah, so I did. I literally did. I learned through the pain, because honestly, I was like, okay, I have 2 choices here. I can just do the technique and then not train because I don't want to get smashed, and then just leave class and not progress as fast as I'd like, or just suck it up and roll with the guys. And thankfully, I had never had anything serious happen to me. Like, I've never been molested or attacked or anything like that to make me fearful or uncomfortable around men. And growing up, I was always around guys anyway, so it was like, okay, just like these are like my big brothers, and I can actually beat up on them, and it's okay, and won't get in trouble. So yeah.
They encourage you?
Yeah, they encourage us. I can choke him, like that's fine. So yeah, so I mean, I did learn a lot. My defense got really good, because I just was getting like smashed just all the time, just, you know, pummeled and on the bottom. But I think I learned how to deal with pressure that way.
Yeah.
And if anything, that was more, more helpful for me for like a real life self-defense scenario. Because again, like, and when I tell the girls in my class now, it's like, look, like, unless it's that crazy chick at the bar that's like trying to pick a fight with you, like 99.9% of the time, it's going to be a bigger guy, and it's going to be a guy. So at least I got used to like being in an aggressive position, you know, and having someone's full-on weight like bearing down on me and being in that uncomfortable situation, because I'd never been in that before. So, but then like, so again, it was still pretty inconsistent in the beginning. But then I think I was about 7 or 8 months into like just training, and I was like, you know what, like went through another bad breakup, and I was like, I'm gonna devote all my time to jiu-jitsu. This is gonna be great. Like, I'm gonna get good. I'm gonna compete, like all this stuff. And so then I literally started coming, you know, a lot more frequently, training a lot more, and my schedule changed at work. So now I was able to come in the evening and got to roll with more of the girls, and it just kind of developed from there.
Crush them all.
well, they crushed me first. Well, because a lot of them actually, I was still a white belt, so beginner at the time, and a lot of the girls, like we had a purple belt, some blue belts in there, but it was still good. It was a lot of fun, and now all of them actually are my friends too. So, you know, when I first started there, like a couple of months into it, when I was still in the morning class, like our instructor, Sonny, I love him to death. He doesn't have a filter, so which sometimes may be off-putting to some people, I guess.
I like it.
I know, exactly. We don't have filters here, I know, which is why I don't do so well with you guys. But, you know, so sometimes maybe off-putting to some people, and he would just like crack jokes and stuff, and I would just laugh like along with him, and you know, he's like, I like you, Chelsea, like, you know, you just like don't take offense to anything. And I was like, why? Like, I don't take life too seriously, you know, in that regard. You know, so he's like, I'd like to invite you guys out. And so I actually gained like a whole new circle of friends, which was so important for me.
After 2 very intense breakups.
Yeah, apparently.
That's the secret.
That's the secret, girls.
To anything, especially jiu-jitsu, where it's overwhelming, you just go through severe breakups, and you're like, fuck everything.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, at least for girls, it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I mean, I could have turned, you know, to drugs or alcohol or, you know, other illicit activities, but it's like this was something constructed.
Constructed, and like, you know, I work with troubled kids, and like they don't have anything to focus on, and like having something to focus on outside of work or school or anything like that, like that's a huge part of life. And like I tell them all the time, without purpose, you are lost. You know, if you find something you can spend your time in, put effort into it, you're never going to be lost, and you're going to gain a new circle. Doors are going to open up for you, which clearly they have. So like, I mean, it's everything, anything's available to you.
And it takes time too, because I mean, it must be. It's interesting to hear and see them for the first time, and to think, oh man, like they have so much possibility in front of them, but every single moment that they're experiencing feels like the worst damn thing ever.
Especially as a teenager too. It's like you feel like that's your whole world, and it's like everything sucks. Like, my life is ending. It's like, no, it's really not. You don't even know what life ending is at this point in time.
I tell them, they're like, I don't want to go to high school. I'm like, you literally have 4 years that happen like this. Like 4 years is so long. I'm like, no, 4 years is a snap. Like, it happens so quickly. You're gonna be there, and you're gonna be graduating, or you're gonna be gone. Like that's basically what it is.
It's weird, and you know, it's the same thing I feel like with like training too. It's like, I mean, I can't believe I've been doing this now for almost 5 years now. It'll be in January
I
for
started
me.
in
So
March. I've been
yeah,
It flies.
Yeah.
it really
5
flies.
months.
Well, I mean, I think it's what you said too. It's like you're kind of you're going through and into another life basically because you went to through 2 breakups. You moved from one state to another, and then here you are, and you basically made like a whole new group of friends that and kind of became in a way like a family to you. 'Cause you've been out with the
for
same
sure.
people, like a lot now.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I definitely consider a lot of those people
like a
my
gang.
family. It's not a gang.
It's like a gang.
I mean,
It's not a gang.
Get jumped in.
Yeah.
You kind of get jumped in.
And we
Really
do
get beat
have
up
like,
on.
you know, organizers.
There are
we do. We have
uniforms.
jackets.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's a game.
Definitely a
Or
game.
No,
cults,
it's
one of the
okay.
two.
No, it's
Yeah.
okay. So
It's not weird enough to be a cult.
no, it's not. Well,
you do
maybe
wear like
maybe some
matching
school.
things though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not like matching purple shoes, but you do.
We
wear
slap the mat at the same time. That's very cult-like.
Okay,
Yeah.
I tell everyone that's the only culty thing that we do, so I put it out there in the beginning. But yeah, that's not true. But yeah, it was very different, and I think because I mean I grew up around here, and so even before I left, like I still had like a small group of friends, but
So just to clarify, you came back to Florida, and that was to the same area.
Yeah.
That was
where I grew up,
Yeah.
yeah. So I grew up in like the Palmetto, Bradenton area, just all throughout, you know, grade school, and then went away to college. So I'm learned. I do have a degree. So no, I went to college.
For everybody else that has no idea.
Has no idea.
What the hell, Florida or Sarasota or Bradenton is like what? I had no idea what the hell Sarasota was when I moved here. It's like, wow, Sarasota.
Like this is a nice place, but no,
And
it's
there's Bradentucky.
and then Bradentucky, yeah.
It's wilder.
Bradenton's nice.
Yeah, well, it has its
character.
moments.
Yeah,
It has its
its
moments,
own
but
character.
yeah.
Florida man, like they're all from Bradenton.
Almost. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it was really tough because when I left and when I came back, like I was still in like when I came back, I was in my late 20s, and so everyone that I had known, they either moved away or got married, had kids, and so it's like, and here was I just like floating in the wind, just like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So, you know, joining jiu-jitsu, and I think I just fell in with like the right group of people at the right time, and it's what I needed at the time as well. So like I didn't go, you know, join jiu-jitsu to like look for a boyfriend or anything like that. Trust me, it can happen more than you think.
Look what happened.
I know. Hey, I know. I'm like the bad example of it. Don't date your instructor. I know.
It just happened.
Yeah, but no, honestly, like without sounding super cliche or anything, but it's like I really like that was not my intent.
Yeah.
Like going into jiu-jitsu, I really wanted to learn. Yeah, I
Look
just looked
at
at
his eyes. Like, I see a future in your eyes.
pretty much without
And
in
you
it. And then he passed out, and it was all a dream. So. But no, and you know, I think I had a really good, like, solid group of friends, and even with Werther, I mean, like when I first met him, like, I mean, I love you for sure, and he knows this, but like I thought he was very socially awkward, and you know, and I know he was trying to be like very professional, and which was great, and again, we became really good friends, and so I think at the time, a friend is what I needed, you know, like a good guy friend that wouldn't judge or anything like that. Aw, I know. Like wouldn't judge about like what in the past and stuff, you know, like I could just like talk to about things that, and it just helps to have like a guy's opinion, because obviously like I was surrounded by like my girlfriends too, but you just get a different, you know, perspective. Having that group of friends that I needed at the time, they really like, and we all supported each other like with jiu-jitsu too. So it's like, you know, if we were struggling with something, like I always had like one of either the girls or even the upper belts. Like I'm so glad that like I trained at the place that I did when I first started, because I think if I would have gone anywhere else, like I wouldn't have gotten as much help. I feel like the culture, yeah, like it's a pretty good culture. Yeah. Gracie Bradenton. Yeah, I like talking with Sonny.
Well, like,
no, it was good.
I mean, I've been in sports for a long time, but for people who have not been in like a group setting, like how important is culture in a group setting?
I mean, I think if not everything, it has a big, like a strong effect on things, especially I think with jiu-jitsu in general. Like, you know, you get all types of personalities in there as well, all types from all walks of life. You know, it doesn't matter anywhere on the political spectrum, anywhere, like, I mean, and everything. And so I think, you know, you have to, as an instructor or as a school owner, you have to set the culture from the top down.
Yeah.
And so it's up to the school owner to set the bar of like, okay, like we're going to have this welcoming environment. We're going to really, you know, take our training very seriously, but also still have fun with it. Keeping our training partners safe, like all that kind of stuff. And especially with beginners, it's really intimidating for guys and for girls, you know, and you get guys sometimes, especially that come in with like the ego.
Yeah.
And so I think having, you know, the egos are always being crushed.
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
if you don't have like a good culture that like helps them work through that, I feel like they'll either just quit or you'll have problems.
Yeah.
And then you get into, you know, that fear of like, well, what if I tap and they don't let go, you know, because they're just like, they have like a dig on me or something. So I think it really setting the culture from the instructor and how they interact with their students and how they teach. And then it just makes like all the students kind of fall in line with that.
Having a level of expectation for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a new jiu-jitsu athlete, like that was the thing. I try to walk into jiu-jitsu without an ego and just kind of take everything in, just learn from like just everything going on. Like I'm very observant, like especially when I'm learning something new.
Yeah.
So I just watched everyone roll and like do things, and like I'll have to learn how to do things watch them do it multiple times just to get it down. But like I would say my first like month of classes, I literally just watched everyone just roll and learn how to do everything. And, just grasp and just try to absorb as much as I can.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I think at our school, what Werther does too, and also to keep everyone safe, is that for any new people that join, if they don't have any wrestling, previous wrestling experience or previous jiu-jitsu experience, if they're like brand spanking new, we don't even have them do like actual live rolling for the first like month, maybe two. It just depends on like their learning curve, you know. Maybe the drills, if they're really catching on. Yeah, exactly. But we know.
He's athletic. Yeah, roll.
Yeah, throw them in. But no, and I think, you know, having that and allowing them to see, you know, what the actual training is and what is involved and what's happening, I think you'll get a better understanding of like what, you know, we do in there. Because I feel like if you just get thrown to the wolves, so to speak, it's like you're not going to learn anything. You're probably going to get hurt, and now you're going to have this like, you know, you're going to have this like, you know, 150-pound dude like on top of a 200+ pound dude just submitting the crap out of him, you know, and the bigger guy's getting mad. So I think it's just having what we do, I think is great, you know, is like we have you guys at least try the technique first just so you can experience it. But then like
confidence too, like all right, I can do this correctly.
Mm-hmm.
All of jiu-jitsu, like what I've found, it's like human chess and like memorizing patterns.
It is exactly like chess. It is exactly like chess.
Because you've been through sports and you've been through dance, so both of you have at least gone through some structured learning for like a very particular set of skills. And I think it actually matters as an instructor or someone who runs a school, like for the longevity of your school or the longevity of your art or the skill that you're trying to train. You have to build that culture, because if you don't develop to use the buzzword, inclusive environment. Oh my God.
Triggered. I'm so triggered.
Well, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I think I think we take it for granted, because in order for the environment that we all function in, for us to all have come together and enjoy each other's company so much, especially in jiu-jitsu, because it's such an intimate activity. Like you're sweating on top of another person. Let alone like, I had this weird like semi-fascination and like fear about north-south going into it. That like
I think everyone secretly does, just no one talks
it's
about
like,
it.
no one wants like what's like the idea of having another human being, let alone like a bigger man on top of you with their crotch right in your face.
Okay, so there and the thing in there is they're probably doing it wrong because you're not supposed to be like on top of their face. They're supposed to be to the side. It's pretty close, and maybe it does great.
I don't know what north-south you've been in. That's not the north-south.
I mean,
I've been in my crotch.
I mean, I've been in some north-souths like that too, which don't trust me, but you know, still, it's not. I know it's not pleasant for the bottom person, but yeah, I totally get what you mean though. It's like, and just a lot of the positions too. It's like, you know, their junk is in your face, or it's like right there, and you're like, I'm just gonna, you know, not pay attention to that.
And the whole time you're trying to keep like as close and as tight to the other person's body anyway, so everything is rubbing on everything. So in order to maintain that kind of close relationship with the people that are in your school, and so that your school actually keeps going into perpetuity, you have to maintain like a really good, to use a word again, inclusive environment, so that everybody wants to hang out and stay.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that Sunday we go, hey, you guys want to go hang out and do stuff?
Yeah. And that's, I think, what we're going to try and start doing, too, is, like, more, because now we have, like, a steady student base. So I think now it's, like, I mean, it could even be something as simple of, oh, like, the UFC fights are on. Let's go. I'll go out somewhere and, like, meet just to watch the fights. Because, again, it's, like, you know, at least for me, I actually, you know, before I did jiu-jitsu, I watched the UFC, and I was like, okay, like, guys are hot. From a girl's perspective, it's like, guys are hot, like, it's kind of cool, the girls are doing something cool too, they're fighting each other, whatever, but I didn't understand what was going on, really. And I think I started enjoying it more when I actually know, like, oh my god, this is jiu-jitsu, I do this stuff too, or I'm learning how to do this stuff, and watching. And I think MMA is probably the closest thing to a real fight that you can get into, and so, because they incorporate strikes and everything like that. And so I think it was really important for me to continue to watch the UFC, because I could see, okay, like, you know, if I chill here when I do in sport jiu-jitsu, in a real fight, I can't. I will get like that. You know, like that guy is pummeling that guy in closed guard. You know, it's like I can't just sit there and just be like, oh, you know. So I think it really opened my eyes to the self-defense part.
You start self-defense, you know, which is a huge component, and then you start memorizing patterns and like, you know, well, if I'm here, I can move into this, and you start becoming a real student of the game.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to riff on you mentioned self-defense multiple times. Like, how important is it? You know, in today's political climate, world climate, not even political, but today's world climate, how important is it for women to have some kind of self-defense?
It is the most important thing they can do, 100%. You know, and the thing that I tell my students, and obviously, like, I tell them because Forther tells them too, is, you know, there's 3 aspects of self-defense that I think everyone, guy or girl, should have. It should be jiu-jitsu, you know, striking, and firearm training. And all 3 of those would allow you to be as well-rounded, self-defense-wise, as possible. But again, if you at least do 1 to start off with, like, you're already better than you were, you know, before you started. And especially, I think, besides firearms, which in my opinion is the great equalizer there, it's like you can have a 100-year-old, you know, grandma pull a little gun out and shoot somebody, you know, and it would save her life. But I think a lot of times, you know, more women are starting to carry weapons, you know, to carry firearms now. Again, it varies state to state just based on, like, their open carry laws and stuff. Yeah. But those damn laws. Silly laws. I know, with like 2 guns on each side. But no, and I think, but it's getting more now, which is great. But I think still, you know, girls, it's just different, because typically when they get into a self-defense scenario, it's not going to be that drunk guy at the bar. Like, you're not going to start in a fist fight. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get taken down already. You know, someone's going to come up behind you, surprise you, maybe knock you over the head, like something to get you onto the ground, because again, they're bigger and stronger, and they could do more really bad things to you. You know.
Well, Mark, you used to be in law enforcement, and aren't, like, isn't it like a huge majority of crimes are basically crimes of passion, and that are committed amongst people that you intimately know in some way or another?
You know, most I mean, the most calls that we gotten were domestics.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's people living in close proximity with each other. You know, whether they're in a relationship or not. You know, either wife or husband or boyfriend girlfriend. It's usually someone who, in close proximity to them, living together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad because I think you know, a lot of the times, at least just what like the situations I've seen, like I know TV's, you know, there's a lot of things that can be doctored up. Yeah, I know. But I think what, you know, in a domestic, you know, violent situation, you know, you have, you know, say the wife, for instance, she doesn't want her husband hurt, even though he's hurting her, you know, and because she still loves him, or she's just, break his freaking arm, okay? Like, and
Make him pass out.
yeah, well, and I think, you know, jiu-jitsu is a good way to defend yourself because, again, like, you're not killing him, you're not really you're incapacitating him is what you're doing, like, but he will recover. So you're not like, you know,
enough time for you, like, you
to get away.
To retreat. That's what you want, and like create space. And you know, I feel like it's important. It's important for our female officers to obviously do self-defense because you're 9 times out of 10 they're going to be outsized by, you know, a male suspect.
Yeah.
But for females in general, like you should have something in your utility belt in order to save you. Like I mean, this is the world we live in. Unfortunately, this is what the world is. But you need. I think everyone needs that. You know, from the smallest, from the kids to the adults. Like that's what you need.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, we start at age 4, you know? I mean, like, our youngest kid is actually technically 3.5. We have 2 3.5-year-olds, and it's really cute. Yeah, I mean, like, they're really adorable. It's like herding kittens, pretty much. But it's like, I like unicorns. It's like, okay, let's go back to jiu-jitsu. You know, but I think it's really important, especially not only for kids, but I'm really, I think, pleased to see that in my women's class, it's not just adult women. We have teens in there, like girls that are 12, 13, 14 years old. Oh yeah, and a lot of them are, you know, they're very small and they're skinny and just not very, you know, someone could overpower them a lot more easily. And that is, I think, I'd rather train them more than the women actually, because I know, like, at least with women, like, the girls really need it. And not to say that women don't need it too, they do. But if we can start them at that age, I mean, all the more power to them, because by the time they actually like get into situations where they would be by themselves, you know, because typically, like, when they're teenagers, they're still, you know, having their parents drive them around, you know, they're still like around like people that they know and trust. But when you get older, obviously you're going some places if you're driving by yourself, like, you know, so the danger ups a little bit more, you know, if not greatly as you get older. So, but yeah, we've had women come in that have been sexually assaulted before, and it's super intimidating for them. I've known some girls that just, like, I mean, they break down, like, as soon as they walk into the gym, they step on the mat and they're like, I can't do this. So for anyone that, you know, unfortunately that has happened to and may be interested in trying jiu-jitsu, I would say just slowly, like, work yourself into it, you know, so like the slowly immersion effect. So just walking into the gym, you know, and just sitting there, not even getting on the mat, just like seeing everybody.
Just watch. I mean, just observe. See how the class is.
I guess with everything that you were talking about, the moral of that story is that it's not just about, you know, being like a small framed 16-year-old girl learning how to, like, protect yourself. I think everything that jiu-jitsu teaches, and I think everything that you guys have at least learned and discussed, really what it boils down to is a matter of personal sovereignty and another buzzword, bodily autonomy.
How dare you?
Well, I mean, okay, so, I mean, the reason why I think, here's another one, the reason why I think, like, or at least my interpretation of it, you know, I think since one of Werther's requirements, I guess you could say, and something you mentioned, is that you should learn firearms, and you made the example of, like, the 80-year-old woman, is that while you want to demonize guns, the fact of the matter is, even if an 80-year-old woman starts jiu-jitsu or starts a martial art, there is no freaking way in hell she's going to be able to defend herself with that skill. Never mind that it's going to take probably at least a few months, if not a year, to learn it enough that she's effective,
Yeah.
she's probably never going to be effective against like a 200-pound guy in the class.
Oh, of course
No.
not. Yeah.
So
no.
you need something like that.
Yeah, unless she's like jacked up on God knows what. But even then, yeah, I
I'm
totally
all jacked
get it.
up on Mountain Dew.
Like even if she's like a power lifter and
Yeah.
like trains strikes, there's still no way she's going to overpower like one highly like very
Yeah.
determined guy, let alone a determined guy who's on drugs, let alone like a group of them.
You ever,
Yeah.
you ever seen a crowd cat fight?
Have you? I should. That's a dumb question. Of course you have.
Actually, yes.
Actually, yes.
Actually, yes.
Actually,
Quite a
yes.
few times. Well, I think too, like, adding on to that, it doesn't just have to be like the 80-year-old grandma. I mean, even like someone like me, it's like
Yeah.
I work out, I have 4 years of
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu training underneath me. I still would rather have a firearm
Yeah.
because even so, whenever I train with like the other guys in the gym too, I mean, like, yeah, there's been like guys that are like way over 200 pounds, and there's no way, like in like a normal self-defense scenario, granted, like these guys in the gym are trained, and a person out there probably would not be, but just the sheer size, it's like I'm just focusing on surviving at this
Yeah.
point.
So,
So
in law enforcement, there's a level of resistance form that we have to use for every incident. And the difference between level of resistance form for women as opposed to men escalates dramatically.
Yeah.
oh, for
So,
sure.
like if you have a 130-pound woman with a 260-pound hurt, she can pull her gun faster than someone like my size. It was, I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. Like, if I pulled my gun, I'd be zero. Well, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
like they're like, well, why'd you pull your gun out first? It's like, you had your taser, your baton, your pepper spray. I was like, well, throw the pepper spray out because that's only going to piss them off. But
Yeah.
everything else, like you have, you can tactically retreat. You can, you're athletic enough. You have a big enough build where you can defend yourself. Whereas she's going to rely on that gun to stop that person. So
Really?
yeah.
So that's crazy. They actually have so to try and simplify that, they basically have a way of measuring if you're a smaller woman versus a larger, more capable man. The smaller woman can jump to the firearm.
It's crazy, right?
Versus you as
Wow,
a more
that's
capable
interesting.
Yeah,
man.
like general orders, like actually
have to,
that
like,
in there
escalate.
for like police for the police
You
department.
have to actually escalate, and you have to
Yeah.
go through that procedure.
Yeah, and like
that's
you,
crazy.
You can
Yeah,
you
that's-
can explain it and articulate it any way you want. But like,
Yeah.
I'm 135 pounds.
Yeah.
And they're 260. They have 130 pounds on me.
Yeah. So I mean,
Wow.
for anyone that actually stuck this far into the podcast,
Hey, I would be very offended if you cut this out.
the reason why at the very start of this we joked about patriarchy and disparities between men and women is because obviously you have the perspective
Yeah.
being a woman,
Yeah.
but also and as a woman that's trained and also a woman that's also trained in firearms, but also there is
I guess
just
I do train in firearms as well.
That's true.
So yes.
But there's just an inescapable level of ignorance and delusion in the current environment, where in the current climate, where people just seem to think that you want to defund the police, but you want to disarm the citizenry, and you also want to believe that somehow we're all just going to be capable.
We're all
of
completely
Yeah.
equal.
Defending ourselves.
Well, we
It's
live
like-
in a deluded. Okay, this is something I say as the perspective of a guy who's come up from a third world country. The beauty of America, and this is another layer to this conversation, is that you hardly ever have to worry about walking down the street and really looking over your shoulders because you might get mugged. Whereas for anyone that's ever traveled, and even someone who's from a luxurious place, maybe you're rich and have lived in Los Angeles, when you go to another country like Brazil or somewhere where it's more impoverished, there's a lot more poverty,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And the people in those areas always have to pay attention. Whereas when you go back to Beverly Hills, when you go back to West Hollywood, you don't have to. Because
Yeah,
you
it's
have
just
the
not
police.
there.
The very forces, the very police that you're wanting to defund because they're so corrupt are the very same people who are keeping the gangs who live in South LA
Okay.
from barging into your nice neighborhoods, which is changing actually.
Well, yeah,
It's-
because all the rich people are
Yeah,
moving
it's-
out.
They're moving out because now the police are actually warning people that you should they're warning people to behave the way that you would if you were in a foreign country. Hide your jewelry, don't have your phones out,
Yeah.
because you will get robbed.
Oh yeah.
politics. Listen,
That's what happens when you get defunded.
Yeah.
The politics were saying like, oh, cops can't do this, cops can't do this. So now they're like, fuck it, just throw everything up in the air, purge, go ahead, defend yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically what it's come down to now. And
and I know that all sounds very like political and conspiratorial, but
but I've been calling it for the last 2 years.
Well, that's like you got to consider the macro implications or the big picture implications and the small picture things that you try to do. When you want to change the politics because people got hurt, and by all means, every individual case of police brutality is, you need to consider it. Yes, but what are you doing when you defund and disarm the police? Like, what are you doing to the citizenry? What are you doing to the people in the communities that depend on their protection?
Yeah, it's getting a lot more rough, a lot more dangerous, and
even more micro perspective. Like, what are you doing to like for a woman?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, and I think a lot, because I think before or most, I'll say, self-defense seminars, please don't. Like if you go to a self-defense seminar, I know, right? Oh, don't get me started on self-defense seminars.
For the podcast, when people only listen to the podcast and not watching the video, she's using air quotes.
Yes.
Very sarcastic.
Yes. So because, self-defense seminars, they teach you, you're never going to learn how to properly defend yourself in 2 hours. That there's just no way. And that's why we tell all these girls, oh my gosh, it really gets it. It's like nails in a chalkboard, and it really gets me really upset because we have, that argument. Well, I just took a self-defense seminar and I know everything there is to know.
My palm in someone's nose and break
yes, it. Exactly.
Yes.
Or I did
your fingers through their hair and you use your thumbs to gouge their eyes
exactly. Out. It's like I'm set. I can tackle the world. It's like no. You're gonna get taken down. You're gonna get taken advantage of. You're gonna get knocked the fuck out, and then bad things are going to happen to you.
Kick him in the crotch.
I know. Isn't that just all the time that it works? But again, it's like going back to, like the crackheads and stuff. Like even if you kick them in the nuts, like a lot of the times if they're hopped up on drugs, they're not going to feel that. They're going to, they're just going to keep going. Just like, and just like if you break their arm too, they're going to keep going through a broken arm.
Yeah.
And a lot of it goes down to muscle memory. You can't if you do any type of sport, you can't just walk up to the NFL after doing a training camp for 1 day, be like, I'm gonna play football. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not. You're gonna get crushed, dude. It's kind of
is I played Madden. I can
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. Or the UFC guys that think they know everything about the MMA, but they don't even have not been to one MMA class or anything in their life.
I'm so happy that you're touching on this because this is what I mean by the level of delusion that people have in the world. It's literally like watching kids who watch a movie and they go, I know Kung Fu. Oh, I watched the Avengers.
Yes.
I know how to do this now.
Yeah.
No, you need...
I watched Batman. Now I'm going to be a millionaire.
Yeah. And honestly, for all those people, everything pretty much the Avengers fighting-wise is totally fake. But it looks cool. But it looks cool. But again, it's choreographed and it's made to look cool, and that's great.
Yes.
But I think if that's all that you watch, and then you go to a self-defense seminar you may have someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and they may be able, may have some good points. But if you don't practice this, at least twice a week, whenever you're put into, a do or die situation and your life is on the line and you're having that fight or flight response, your body's going to kick into what it knows and what's in the muscle memory. And we pray that's jiu-jitsu. As the more that you train, it will be. And I don't know where I heard it from, or I'm just making this up myself, but I would think that if you ever would get attacked, and you could be a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. You could be so precise with everything, be the best jiu-jitsu black belt out there. And if you're a female, or even a male too, and you get attacked, because you're under such duress, I feel like your skills would go back down maybe to a white or a blue belt. Yeah. But that's enough to save your life. I mean, that's all you need. It doesn't have to be this cool fancy butt scooting stuff, or you don't have to do these fancy leg locks. It's the simple stuff, it works the best, There's a
quote that I like that encapsulates this conversation. It's you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training.
That's a good one.
If your training is I like what you're saying, because you need when you mention the example of some of your friends who have actually been in assault situations,
Yeah.
the trauma is paralyzing.
Yeah, and some
the
people freeze.
experience of, like, for some people when they get on the mats, even if they don't have any trauma, having another human being on top of you is just incapacitating.
Mm-hmm.
It's paralyzing.
Yeah.
It's an uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't train, like, you don't train your mind as well as your body too. Like, a lot of people, when they get in these high stress situations, like, if you don't train for them, or like don't put yourself in these like uncomfortable positions, you're gonna freak out.
Oh yeah.
Like it's inevitable. So like, I mean,
I would probably freak out even now.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, like,
with years of
even,
training, I still would freak
like,
out. You know.
Sports were like,
yeah.
you know, for me, for like sports, like I get that adrenaline dump, and
You know how to
I know how to perform. I know how to
Mhm.
execute.
Yeah.
When it's an emergency situation, I don't get like crazy tunnel vision. I'm still aware of everything,
Yeah.
and I'm able to like, okay, calm down, execute.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that, all that added pressure, like it can be overwhelming for a lot of people,
Mhm.
and they just, you know, we call it in law enforcement, they just go red. Like they just
Yeah.
nothing makes sense.
We joke about it. It's like I just see
I'll
red,
just see red,
bro.
bro.
I just see red, bro.
Yeah, but like
But it's true. Yeah.
They
It's
have
true.
no control over anything. Like everything is out of whack.
And that's when mistakes happen,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, fatal
And
mistakes happen.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, I hate to bring up like, you know, like the horror movies and stuff. I know all that stuff is fake, but it's like, why would you run to that room? You know what I mean? Like you're like a normal person would be like screaming at, you know, everyone's done this at least once. It's like you're watching a movie, you're like, why would you do that? That's right where the killer is. And it's like, well, no, because like, yeah, because it's
Don't
like you're
go
not
in the garage. You
with all
idiot.
the, you know, with all the knives and the axes and stuff. It's like, don't do that. But again, it's like, you know,
Why
again,
is the black
if you,
guy always smoking pot?
I know.
Why is he always the first one to get killed?
I was about to say, why do they always die? Not lately, so they
Yeah,
make
changing
it.
it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 90s and 2000s really got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, and like everyone, I feel like goes through that, and if you're not, you know, used to that type of adrenaline dump, then yeah, like it's gonna, you don't know what to do, and especially, you know, when you have a guy on top of you trying to sexually assault you, because let's face it, that's literally what that's the common thing. That's what's gonna do. You know, it's really hard because a lot of times they're like, well, I guess I hope he doesn't kill me, and I'll just hope I don't get pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, and like I feel like that would be like, I mean, again, I can't speak for anybody, and if I'm wrong, you know, whatever. But I would just think the way that people freeze, you know, and they don't know what to do, and then it's like it's happening already before they even know it, before they can even recognize what's happening, and before they can get away.
Yeah.
And so, like I think when I first started the women's class, we actually, like our women's class at our gym, we actually went over like sexual assault positions and stuff. So, and what to do, because not only are you having to worry about that, but you're having to worry about strikes as well, you know, because what if you get knocked out? That sucks, you know, and then you really don't have any control of your environment or know what's going on. And so, you know, we deal with like how to block the strikes properly, how to get out from underneath a bigger, stronger opponent, and even what happens, I know this gets pretty graphic, but it's like even what happens when he goes to adjust for penetration. It's like there's things that you still can do to submit him from there, or at least like get out from underneath him, you know? And again, it's like, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of years, multiple years of training, you know? And even then, you may forget it, you know? And
That's why you gotta get a gun.
That's why you gotta get a gun, exactly, you know?
But you have to train that too.
Yeah,
It's not just like
yeah.
you'll have the gun and immediately you'll know what to do in the moment, because you'll still possibly freeze.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I always tell like new gun owners, and like they're like, oh, what kind of gun should I have? I was like, not a pistol.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why? I was like, because it can jam, and if you're not trained, because most of you are not going to put in the time in the range, like you're gonna come across a jam, and then they're like, oh, it's broken. I'm like, no, you just gotta unrack it.
Like snap rack thing,
Yeah,
right?
snap rack.
Yeah.
So the intention behind this podcast was to put it in a word that Mark and I have discussed, is legacy.
Yes.
And I'm very grateful to have you on here, because it's not just about like, obviously there's the sports aspect of it,
Yeah,
there's the
of
athletic
course.
aspect of
Mhm.
it, but also it's like you can't do any of this stuff if you lack any sort of personal sovereignty, any means of protecting yourself, especially if the world I'm not necessarily like a conspiratorial guy. I try to lean a little more optimistic about the world. There's a lot of shit in the world, but we keep getting past it. You got to remember, like, not that long ago, there were literally nukes on an island not too far away from the coast of the United States.
Right.
And we got out of that. So for me, it's like the world will always find a way to potentially decay and fall apart. But as long as you can maintain some amount of your own freedom, you can do all this other stuff. So that's why, like, you said it is graphic.
Yeah.
You said it is intense to talk about the little nuanced details.
But I think those are discussions you need to have, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
You need to face the reality of the world.
You know, I tell my kids all the time, like, the world's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like,
it's not a Disney movie.
And they think they're so hard and they're so tough.
Or it's not an Avengers movie where, like, you know, like good will prevail and stuff.
Captain America's gonna come save the day.
It's like, no, he's not, unfortunately.
That's not. Well, and I think
at best you're gonna get like who's like the Black Noir, like from The Boys.
Well, I mean, at best you'll get 2 to 5 minutes. You'll get a response from maybe your local law enforcement agent. But within that time,
so much that can happen.
The act will have already transpired.
Oh, for sure. And the damage will already have been done, and they're just coming up to the aftermath of it, which is really bad.
Cleaning up and reporting.
And I think, and even though, like, you know, what I just talked about was very graphic, I actually talk about this to the teens as well. Like, I'm literally that graphic. Now, I do, because they are underage, and it's because it's adult content, technically, I do get, you know, permission from their parents. So I always ask, like, look, like, I sent out when I first started the class and we had a couple of teenagers, I sent out a text, I was like, look, like, this is what we're going to talk about in the class right away. Because again, I don't want to rob any parent of having that conversation with their child, you know, because I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think every parent should have that conversation with their child, whether it's a boy or a girl, you know, but again, if not all parents feel comfortable with that, and if they,
I think
you know.
it's an important conversation, because like we have girls that have been, at my work that have been trafficked and stuff like that, and that's a real... It's a real scenario,
that's a
like,
real,
that people need
in 2022, that's a reality.
Like, they have to be prepared for it. And, like, these are the conversations that we should have with young people. And these are the conversations that need to happen in order for them to be prepared for the world that we live in.
And I think too, it's like what I also go over, and I actually learned this from my mom, so kudos to my mom. She never watches stuff like this, but like, you know, when she was growing up, like, you know, when she was in her 20s, it was in the 1980s, you know, and so she was in New York, you know, and the biggest thing she told me was like, look, like, there was like, you know, she didn't know a lick of jiu-jitsu, obviously, she didn't know anything, didn't have a firearm, nothing, but she's like, you know what I would do? I would just walk very confident, and I would like have like almost like a chip on my shoulder, and I'd always be being very situationally aware of my surroundings. You know, it's maybe not go down a dark alley by yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, that kind of thing. And thank God, like, I mean, nothing really happened to her. And again, this was in the 80s in New York City when it was crazy.
Which is what it's like now.
Yeah, pretty much right now. So it cycles around, but you know. But yeah, so it was, you know, and she was able to stay relatively safe, and she conveyed that to me when I went out, because when I went to college, initially I went to school in Miami, and so we would always go out to the nightclubs and stuff, but because I had already had, even though I didn't know jiu-jitsu at all, I was still situationally aware, and so I knew, like, I would keep a lookout for, like, oh, that guy looks shady, or this situation does not look right, I'm going to leave, or I'm just not even going to go put myself in that situation. Yeah, a little spidey. And if you don't have them, honestly, like with me, like we would go out with the girls, and I would always make sure there was at least one guy with us, because guys are a deterrent. I kid you not, you know, and because, and you see it and you hear it a lot in, like, you know, the girls, they go down to Mexico and then they get stolen and you never hear from them again. Yeah, the Aruba thing. And it's like, you know, girls will flee. I'm sorry, but like, you may have, I'm going to stand right by you, girl. No, it's whoever can run away the fastest, you know, and unfortunately it's whoever gets left behind, you know, but men, I feel like it's just evolutionary.
It's
ingrained in us to defend women,
yeah.
you know. And so I feel like regardless, a man would want to.
I don't know about this coming up generation.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, in the generation, in our generation and the ones before it, I feel like they would, want to protect.
The younger guys now are starting to kind of turn around and like kind of embrace more masculinity.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
Like a swing in the pendulum.
Yeah, like the whatever generation came after. We had all the fun. The street lights came on before the street lights came on. Like
yeah.
Like that generation, like the TV, video game, like screen time generation, like that generation's totally fucked.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand about that.
It, like you guys can DM me and berate me. I don't know. That's what I said.
No, and honestly, I wholeheartedly agree because I feel like when I was growing up, it was around the same time like you guys are growing up too, and thankfully I was blessed to live in a neighborhood in like a development, and we grew up where we had our group of friends, and like, look, you can go out, just be home before the lights come on because your dad's gonna go looking for you, and then it's not gonna be so fun, Oh, the whistle?
Yeah. If Dad whistled, you had like 5 minutes to get home, no matter where you were. You could be like across town. Like if you heard it, you're screwed.
That's the loud whistle. It's like a little whisper, oh nope, gotta go.
We lived in a pretty small town in Long Island, so like everyone knew everyone. So
yeah,
it was one of those things.
It was easy.
Yeah, it was easy, and I mean, again, like I grew up around here, but Palmetto, I mean, we lived in out in the boonies, which is all developed now. But I mean, at the time, we just had this neighborhood, and that's all we had, and it was great. And we never had any problems, at least that I was privy to. And I just feel very lucky to have had that childhood, and I'm definitely going to have that going forward whenever I have kids too. Is like I'm not just gonna stick a tablet in their face. It's like I want to be more involved with them. And teach them at a young age, like you have to defend yourself, and you have to interact with people and with the world around you. So
I think that's another element that you can almost add it to that list that Werther talks about. That's like jiu-jitsu, striking, firearms, and developing situational awareness is actually like it's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a skill that you can hone over time because I think that part of the lack that this generation has is that we have lived in a pretty much delusional culture that our parents intended to create a safe place.
Yeah.
But in doing so, they've stripped the next generation of the ability to be able to tend them to their own safety because they just expect that places are going to be bumpered and guarded and child-proofed, and there's going to be cops everywhere, and communities are going to be really safe and protective. But again, you got to remember that the wolves will always be out there. Just like just like when they say gun laws are great, but it only works for people that actually abide by laws.
Yeah.
The people who have bad intentions. There was recently. When was this?
Well, what was a quote? If criminals obeyed laws, they.
They wouldn't be criminals.
They wouldn't be criminals.
No, that's true. They wouldn't be criminals. There was just I think it was Canada. There was a mass stabbing.
Yeah.
There was
you could ban all kitchen knives
stabbing. Yeah.
Well, I guess KitchenAid's out.
KitchenAid's out. I guess a utopian society can fail. Oh, imagine that.
Yeah,
it's what are we gonna cut our meat with now?
So I was listening
plastic
to
forks?
No,
you can stab people with forks.
Yeah,
spoons.
And knives too.
Spoons.
Yeah, what? You can still kill someone with a spoon. I was listening to Napoleon Noir, and he was interviewing a former UK police officer, and they do have laws against certain knives.
Are you serious?
Yes, they do.
Oh my god.
You can't have certain knives in certain places. It can only be a certain you basically can only have
I don't even want to go to Canada anymore.
What about for cooking and stuff?
It has to be appropriately where you only need it.
Banff is on my bucket list of places to go. I don't even want to go anymore.
Where?
Banff, Canada.
I call it Banff.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
It looks magical. It's like Narnia.
But this
really?
Yeah, it's pretty badass looking.
Wish it wasn't a totalitarian state.
I know.
What's up with that?
I know, but it's with a well-intentioned. I mean, this is kind of the same situation that's going on in California, and I'm from California. But this is the thing. It's it doesn't seem totalitarian, but when you constantly expect the state to provide your security and to provide your safety, that's what they'll give you.
Yeah.
They'll also rob you of your own personal.
Honestly, I feel I feel bad for I used to brag on California all the time. Like, well, what's going on with California? And like it's like, you know, China Junior. And like, honestly, I just feel bad now, like, because I know there's good people in California who don't want to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as someone who loves America as much as I do, like we have to be kind of united. We can't be like, oh, fuck California.
Right, and
Yeah.
just on them, yeah.
We have to be, you know, like, no, you guys should be more free. You should have these opportunities. You shouldn't have to, you know, you shouldn't have to pay these ridiculous gas prices. You shouldn't have to live off an electrical grid that will fail.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know, just things like that make common sense, and like you guys should be pulled into what America should be.
Well, that's what happens. Like I said, when you expect the state to protect you and do everything for you, and that's the state. It's like it's a beautiful thing to want to live in a society where it is civil and safe and protected. Of course.
I think everyone at some level wants that.
Yes.
I mean, unless you're, you know, psycho,
But,
which those are out there too. But
I like what I've come to appreciate about Florida and come to appreciate about states like Texas is that I saw this video how Californians behave in Texas. I haven't watched the whole thing, but the neighbor comes up and like greets the new neighbors from California, and they're wearing masks, and they're all freaked out because the Texan with the cowboy hat is wearing his like side piece right there out in the open. But it's like, I would rather live in a place where there's a tenuous peace. I think people have just lost sight of boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I get it. I get it. Living in California, it's such a freewheeling state. But the thing that I've discovered, to bring it all back to this whole conversation of Florida's Fittest, with fitness and the pursuit of developing a skill, there are boundaries to developing that. Yeah. I get it. Like, I used to think in the same way of like, I'm artistic and everything flows and it's just however you want to do it. That makes sense, but in order for you to be an artist, for example, in a particular medium, you need to learn the brush. How are you going to develop the skills to become an artist if you never take the time to do so? If you're, I mean, yes, there are people who are naturally gifted, and they just pick it up and they just go and they're good. But not
I hated those swimmers. I hated them.
But trust me, it happens a lot in jiu-jitsu too.
But you're accomplished.
Yeah.
In spite of that, you still can claim that you were a D1 athlete.
Well,
but you worked your ass off
for it, and then some kid gets a scholarship like after 3 months of swimming. I'm like, you're
But
I mean, it's no. You guys, you guys have felt the jiu-jitsu part too, and like everyone that's ever done jiu-jitsu for more than a year, you felt this struggle too. You've been like, it's like, oh my god, I worked so hard. I'm training like 3 to 4 days a week, maybe even 5 days a week. I'm like everything, live, breathe, eat jiu-jitsu, and then here comes like a wrestler with like 3 years of experience, and then boom, blue belt. It's like, what? I just worked 1.5 years for that blue belt.
Mickey
like
Rod
this is
smashed. What was that? Like, was it 80cc?
Yeah, and he was awarded.
And he was a white belt.
Yeah, and he got awarded his blue belt.
Yeah,
I think now he's a purple belt, but I think he's not really a purple belt. So
we can ask further for like the meritocracy on that one.
Oh yeah. Well, I can tell you because he's talked about it numerous times.
Non-stop.
Pretty much, he's not really a purple belt in the sense that like he's way better. He's way better than what that. But
and
that
he has
is
the ability to like integrate skills really quickly.
Yeah.
That's actually keep talking. I think meritocracy is another.
That's a really good one.
That is really another good topic to kind of riff on. And well, you live with the guy, so what are like some like solid like basic points that you can kind of cover, like the importance of meritocracy?
Oof.
You lived it.
Yeah. Well, I think too is so with the expectations part of it, I guess, is because you see it a lot, I guess, maybe not a lot, I don't know, but I guess in other jiu-jitsu schools, maybe, not saying anything, but maybe, girls.
The ones we know of.
Yeah, the ones we know of, but sometimes there is that tendency because jiu-jitsu still is a very male-dominated sport. That they're like, oh my god, like a girl actually stayed and she got her blue belt and she's still staying, like, oh my god, or even she made it past the first like 1.5 years and you're thinking about giving her blue belt, you know, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna give it to her because she's doing a good job and she's been here for about a year and she hasn't left, so just because she's a girl, we want to keep her, here's your blue belt, you know, and she may not be ready, you know, she may not be actually like skillfully at that level. And I think the good thing that at least Werther does is he makes sure that whether it's a girl or a guy, the expectation is still there. They still have to be able to have the technical skill of like a blue belt, regardless of like of gender, you know. And my progression is I have so many things going against me right now because like we're together. I'm also the women's coach. I also help run the school. And previously I was a competitor too. And so the standard was, again, the standard was high, and so I have all of that going against me. So I ain't never getting my purple belt. I just, but no, and again,
so more stringent.
Yeah, it's more stringent, and honestly, it's like I'd rather have that and be able to go and cross train at another school, and then be like, you know what? Without a doubt, 100%, she's a blue belt.
Yeah.
With no doubt in my mind, and you could go to any school, and that's what.
I like that about Werther's class, and I like the fact like when I first joined, like he didn't give me a belt right away.
No, we wait 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, that was so cool because they made me appreciate the belt so much more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm not even. I'm still not a person, so I'm a white belt. But,
I know, but
I'm like half of a person now because I have a white belt. So
not like a quarter.
I'll take a quarter.
But no, yeah, and I really like that too, you know, because one, saved money on belts, and then two, more importantly, you know, it's like it's more appreciative because that person stuck through the first 6 weeks, which are the hardest. I'd say the first 3 months are the hardest. If you get past those, you're pretty good. You should be good and solid because again, like with jiu-jitsu, it's confusing.
Every time Eddie tapped me.
You'd be rich.
You'd be a rich man.
You wouldn't be doing this podcast with us. You'd have your own. You'd be famous.
I still be working with you guys.
Aw, that's so sweet.
So I think the important thing about that, I'm always kind of digging into these deeper meanings.
No, it's important, I think.
In the very same society that we're living in, hard expectations are kind of going away.
Oh.
So,
yeah. Participation trophies really drove that one home. So we hate those.
I get it. I was thinking about this morning, and I think there's a value to inherent, because here's where it came from. I was driving through town, and you see, have you ever seen there's a graffiti artist in town in Sarasota that has, his whole thing is, you are loved. That's what he does. It's like a bunch of hearts, and it says, you are loved.
I'm driving in the wrong part of Sarasota.
That's fine. Like, that's
where is this?
It's in the fancier parts. But see,
that makes sense.
It's in the nicer parts.
You say we're too broke for that part?
I'm not saying you're too broke. I'm just saying I drive through there.
That's what he said.
Probably we're too broke
but
for that part.
the thing is, I think what it is that it speaks to a certain entitlement and a lack of actual awareness for the fact that in the real world, you have to bust your ass to get anywhere.
Yeah. People aren't just going to hand you stuff.
And that's the thing is like,
unless you live on Siesta Key.
for example.
Or Long Key.
Like, I mean, for
or
example,
any of the keys.
For example, like, you kept saying the fact that I am in a relationship with the head coach of the school, the fact that I teach this class, it makes it so that the standards are even higher for you because there never needs to be that doubt or the thought in other people's minds that, you got this belt because you are where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's an important thing. Because what it is
I feel bad for your kids. Like,
well, to bring it back
to you're never leaving white belt.
Yeah.
Never. No. It would just be a long time.
I mean, like Gary Vaynerchuk kind of does that with his kids. He's like, when he'll play like pretend hoops with his kids, and he never lets his kids win. Ever. Because it's like, it makes no sense that like a little 2-3-year-old would ever win against a full-grown man.
I told you about the time I beat my mom in swimming, and she made me race her like at least 100 times.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't take defeat. Like she's like, no, we're doing it again.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I'm tired. Like I already beat you 99 times. It's like, well, you're not gonna beat me the 100th time. I'm like, all right.
All right. It still
like,
doesn't change
keep going. I know.
And I think that's a better reflection. Again, what it comes down to, speaking of legacy and the kind of lessons you want to bring into the world. This is ultimately what sports is. It's like, forget the sports, forget the athletics. What you're trying to do is you're trying to teach human beings how to live in society and in the world. And the world demands a lot of you. And the reality outside of your golden, your pearly gates, the reality outside of that, when you get past the States, when you get into the real world, is that you have to bust your ass. I make the joke all the time that like, my daughter's 5, I should probably go get her a real job. Because in other places in the world, there are kids working in
She's
freaking mines.
She's freeloading a little
Yeah.
bit, you know. I mean,
Like,
she's got to
needs
pull
to,
her
like,
weight.
pull her weight. But I mean, in other parts of the world, that's a real conversation.
Yeah.
Like, you see this, whatever you think of Apple, whatever you think of people's practices, so they say some parts of this, some elements of this are being mined by children.
Yeah.
The metals in to make this phone that you complain about because you have to spend $1,000 on a phone is being mined by children, and they make nothing.
Yeah.
And that this is
They get to eat.
They get to
They
eat.
get to eat and
Thank
they get
God.
to drink. Thank
They
God.
get to eat.
Yeah.
But that's the
There's more
perspective I'm
cracks if you
coming.
kill your workers.
Yeah.
That's the perspective I'm coming from.
Same.
Is that like I want to strike the balance, and this is a struggle for me because I'm a dad and I have a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like you with Werther, like the standards are going to be higher for her.
Yeah, and I think too is we have high standards even for the kids that we teach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about, you know, the size of our kids class right now. And it's like, and I'm not saying this just
I love
to like,
watching the kids' class.
yeah, it's so
fun.
funny,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and especially with like, you know, the elementary school age children and the early middle school age kids, it's like not to like say, oh, we have like the best kids program, but it's like we do have a lot of kids, and their parents, like they stick them, you know, they keep them here, even if like, you know, they're struggling with money, they still are able to keep their kids in jiu-jitsu because they recognize how important it is. And what we recently started doing is for the kids that compete, I hung their medals up, and so I got, it's my idea. So, and I did it. So, and it was hard work, but I love doing it. And I got plaques with the kids' names on it, and I put their medals on hooks. But the thing is that all of those medals that you see in the school, they are all medals that were earned. So the kids won at least one match to get that medal put up. And we've had that conversation at like other tournaments where like the kids are like, oh look, like coach, like Chelsea, can I put this up? And we're like, no. And we have to have that hard conversation because like it's good though. It's good for them because at first it's like I feel bad, but then I'm like, you know what? Like I don't feel bad because this is teaching them a valuable lesson, and they'll take that with them the rest of their life going forward.
Life does not give you participation evidence.
Exactly.
Just because you showed up to work doesn't mean you get a raise.
Right, exactly. No. You have to work hard.
Well,
I mean, some places.
This is why education is falling apart. Because tenured professors and teachers stick around because they just stick around because they're tenured.
Yeah, that's another thing for another day too. Oh my goodness.
Like what sports brings to humanity, like the lessons it teaches us. I can't name another thing that brings people more together other than sports.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the equivalent of like holidays, like, especially with like different cultures. Like people, it's like football, like European football, is the biggest sport arguably in the world.
Yeah.
And people gather around the TVs, like from rich countries to poor countries, all hunt around the TV just to watch their football team play.
Yeah.
And the same thing can be said in the States. Like, I mean, I'm wearing my Florida State jersey. Like, I care. Like, I yell at the TV while the Knowles play. Like, it's.
Oh, I'm totally a TV yeller.
Yeah.
Werther feels. I feel bad for Werther. The Eagles are my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've inherited the yelling at the TV from my parents and from my family. But again, it like you said, it really like unites everybody because you have like a passion, and I know like I have family that live in Philly, and that's where like I'm originally from. And when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, oh my God, I had never seen like that was probably the most like accurate of the city of brotherly love that actually was like it's very accurate in that moment in time because everyone was just like, I mean, they were yelling from what I hear, they were like yelling out their windows, hugging, crying, kissing each other. I mean. And that's what sports is, And I think sports are very important, and it needs to stay that way, And the fact that some sports they're trying to interject, a political aim, and it's just like, and it's like keep it out of the sports,
I've had that conversation with other people, and I'm like, it ruins. Like, I mean, granted, like I played college sports, I've met professional athletes. I'm like, dude, athletes are. I mean. Some athletes are smart, like some athletes are very smart.
Really?
But the majority of athletes are dumb as rocks. Like I don't want to hear your political opinion about anything.
Yeah.
Especially if you never like finish school or like hardly like I know what kind of like education like the college level gets. Like I know like the tutors like kind of like push you along. Like did you really take that class? Like did you really get that bachelor's degree? Like you know, like I don't really want to hear what you have to say about this this policy. Like,
yeah.
it's just it's not relevant.
When you know they're probably not that engaged in what's going on.
Especially if you had no affiliation with it prior.
Yeah.
Or you lived like this super privileged life and you're going to tell me how to live? Like
oh, I think the biggest thing was like during
that sound like?
I know. It was funny like during
during
the lockdowns and stuff, like I think the biggest like all like the rich people got like all the celebrities got so much flack, as they should have, because they're like, we need to all stay inside our homes and like we're all in this together. Meanwhile, they're in like their mansion with the movie theater, Olympic-sized swimming pool, like golf course.
I think Oprah said she was traumatized because she had to stay at home.
Yeah, it's like, and then meanwhile you have, you know, people that are like in a domestic abuse situation, or the kids that struggling, when they don't want to be at home.
Keep the lights on, like it's just.
Yeah, it's tough, but.
And the fallout of that is still like huge. Like I think they expect this next set of children coming up through school having like speech impediments, difficulty.
I have kids at work that can't tell time. No, I'm serious. Like,
I'm sorry.
I say it all the time, like,
oh my God,
like,
I'm so
these are
sorry.
high school age kids that can't tell time on an analog clock.
Yeah,
like, it is so embarrassing. And like they can't spell. They have a hard like. I was slow at reading as a kid, but I got better. Like these kids are like reading at a third grade level and they're in high school. Like this is like, and like this is supposed to be the future of our country. Like, it's very hard for me to like, you know, take pride in that. I'm like, dude, like I feel like we're fucked, but
now all of us are gonna keep doing these podcasts.
We just have to keep, you know, spouting our stuff out there and educating. So, and I think that's the biggest thing, because I feel like I wasn't really in tune. I wasn't like dumb, but like, you know, I wasn't really like in tune, like
you were just
politically or like you know, I wasn't caring too much about like just the stuff that was going on worldwide, because I'm like, it doesn't affect me. I'm not going to worry about it. But I see where that kind of thinking has led. And now like just learning more about just the different things that are going on just around the world, I'm like, whoa, like I had it really good, and I maybe should be doing some more research on some stuff before, you know. And
I've become, you know, aware of so much more. And like growing up, you know, I was raised Catholic, and like there's a saying like you inherently know right and wrong.
Yeah.
And you know it's wrong when you have to think too long about it.
Yeah.
Right. So everything that's happened over the last couple of years, like, you know, you think about it, and if you think too long, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that instead of this? And like that's basically how I guided my life now. So it's.
No, it's a good way, because I mean I was raised the same, so I totally feel you on there. Not doing it anymore. So. But yeah, I think it's just tough, and I think Werther and I both have become more aware of what's going on in the world, and even in like our own country, and trying to like even in our own backyard, so to speak, too. And he always says a lot too. It's like, you know, how can you change the world if you can't just take care of your immediate family? You know, immediate family, then start in the community, and then your state, and then just, you know, go out from there. And so, you know, I've taken that into account. And so I just try to educate myself from sources that I know aren't receiving money from any corporations that have like an agenda. It's very few and far between. You have to hunt for this stuff. But it is out there, and I think more people are creating more content along these lines, and so it just has to keep going. You know, so.
Well, that's the beauty of the current situations, that we're able to reach out and actually have these conversations more and more frequently. Because it's all easily accessible. I mean, I know I have like a room full of like hundreds of dollars of stuff, but it's
like a bat cave in here for anyone who's listening right now.
It's accumulated over time, but I mean, but the clarity of the intention is becoming more and more obvious over time, because, like I said, it's like for us, it's about legacy. So what's kind of in the future for you?
Oh, well, I mean, we're just going to keep on chugging, I guess, with the school. So the goal is we have about, I want to say like 130 students. So we're trying to get to 200, so trying to break that. But honestly, it's like we're just trying to get as many people involved in jiu-jitsu as possible, regardless of what age. Because again, especially as you mentioned, in this like really crazy world, more than usual crazy world, I think it's more important now than ever to actually learn how to defend yourself. And the more people that we can, reach out to and get them started. It even doesn't have to be with us, I mean, people that may be listening obviously probably don't live here, and so, but the good thing is now, as opposed to like 10 years ago, was that there is a jiu-jitsu school on pretty much like on every corner, and that's great, and it needs to continue.
The accessibility of skills and places to train is huge. I mean, I learned so many moves from YouTube and like pattern movements. Like if I get like super bored at work, like I'll pull out my phone and watch like jiu-jitsu movies and videos, and that roll that I do in the triangle, like I got that straight from YouTube, and it's worked multiple times until other people started figuring out what I was doing. Yeah. So now I have to.
They're like this white belt peasant. Look at him! God damn it.
I get it worse for like the first 3 months.
Yeah, well, and yeah, it's, I agree. It's a lot. And you can access, a lot of information. You just have to parse through the fake stuff.
Yeah, well,
there's a lot of fake jiu-jitsu stuff out there.
It's huge because Mark and I talk about this in strength training wise. We had to read books and figure out this stuff on our own, experiment. Now it's you pull up a YouTube video and you're like, oh, that's how you do it? Boom.
Or you would have to, I know I've talked to...
that's what I need to, that's the caloric intake I need to have? All right, cool.
I know, I've talked to other, older jiu-jitsu practitioners, and they're like, I remember when, just to go learn from somebody, they would have to drive 2 hours away to even and that was only for a weekend, and then they'd have to study it, and it was crazy. And now it's we're 10 minutes away. I literally live 10 minutes away from our school, and it's it's a lot more accessible. And I feel because of that, there's really no excuse.
Wow.
Anymore. At least I know it may sound bad, but it's there's no excuse now. It's literally everywhere. You have a direct. Well, yeah, but the fact that jiu-jitsu is becoming more popular and there's a lot more gyms available, and so you just have to find the one that fits you. And because every gym, even though they all teach jiu-jitsu, they all have their different culture, because just based on, again, what we talked about, the culture being set from the owner, from the top down. And you just have to find out, shop around. If you're lucky enough to live in a highly populated place with more than one jiu-jitsu school, then shop around and be honest. Be like, I'm gonna go check this other school out, because you never know. So you shouldn't feel pressured to go to one school, because that's when the culty stuff gets in it. It's you shall bow to us. I'm your father. And it's no. Yeah, or you can't go cross train anywhere else other than here. It's that's kind of weird, So it's really but yeah, just going forward, just trying to get as many people as possible into jiu-jitsu. Me personally, trying to get as much women as possible into jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. So we have about, I think, on average, I think we have about 8 or 9 girls. And for jiu-jitsu, that's a lot, because, and I always say to my girls, I'm like, man, you guys have it so freaking easy, because when I first started, again, I had no girls to train with hardly, and just because of the timing I could go, and I got just smashed, and because of that, my defense got really good, but my offense, my submissions were trash, super trash. Yes, exactly. And yeah, exactly. I never had the chance to be on top, or
these vulnerable.
I know. And now, oddly enough, I'm having to work back on my defense, because it got a little lazy, and now I'm rolling with guys that are your size or bigger, and again, I'm having to work on my defense again, because it got a little sloppy. Because again, I was on top. So it's just the constant balance, and that's the balance with jiu-jitsu. Is once you get, it's once you get good at one thing, now you have to get good at another thing.
Fancy that.
Fancy that.
Progression.
Will yield great results.
No way.
No way.
Favorite. Oh wait, hold on. Let me backtrack. Gi or no gi?
Oh, no gi for sure.
Okay, gotcha.
Because the gi, I feel very trapped. I feel like I'm in a sauna, and I've been just, brought to the dark side, which is no gi. And leg locks. They leg locks
Gotcha.
too. Leg locks and no gi are the dark side.
No gi. Because gi restricts my movements. I can't be as explosive as I want.
Yeah.
And it's too damn hot.
Well, especially not to interrupt you, but especially here in Florida too. I get if you're up north and it's snowing, Minnesota, and and everyone's walking around in parkas or coats and stuff. I get training the gi there is, it's still very good, and I would definitely, condone that. But here in Florida, it's hot. It's hot as hell.
That's true.
And it's people aren't, if you get into a self-defense thing, first of all, they're probably going to be shirtless because if they're on drugs, they're like, I'm going to take off my shirt. Yep. They're going to be shirtless, or they're just going to be, it's hot. So everyone's going to be in t-shirts, tank tops, flip-flops and stuff. And so, again, you have to learn how to deal with somebody when all you have is just their arms or their legs to grab, not their clothes. But I do think that training in the gi as a beginner is actually good because it slows the game down.
Yes.
Because no gi, I know, and I'm not saying this because brother told me to say it. I really not. I actually believe this. So, because no gi is very fast. You don't have to worry about grips on your clothes. You can if you're sweaty enough, you can really get out of stuff that by the skin of your teeth, So, but with the gi, it's you can't always do that. And now it's a pass that I usually could do perfectly. Now I'm prevented from doing that because now they have a grip on my lapel or my sleeve or my pants. Yeah. So you have to deal with that.
So
but
I have to work on technique.
Yes, you do, unfortunately. Dang it. But I think it really helps slow the game down and allows you really to focus on your technique and not just on sheer brute strength or force or anything like that. Cool. So good for beginners, but I think once you get more advanced, it's yeah. But
kind of fading away too.
Well, yeah, especially I think because even if you look in the professional jiu-jitsu circuit, it's all no-gi. Yeah. It's all no-gi. Yeah. Because I think it would be very boring to just watch two guys very slowly, inching, stalemating. That would be really boring, So no-gi, it's fast, it's cool. You can do leg locks, because with gi, there's certain leg locks that just are not safe to do, because you can't see the knee line properly. But in no-gi, anything goes. Yeah. So it's that's where you get the cool submissions and stuff. So I'm glad that on the professional jiu-jitsu circuit, that they stick with no-gi. It's just more exciting for people to watch.
Cool.
So.
Cool. Speaking of which, favorite submission?
That is tough because it has changed over the years. Yeah. Obviously, from as a beginner and going up. So currently, right now, it is north-south.
Really?
The north-south choke. Yes. Okay. Because I actually didn't really feel comfortable with it when I was a white belt, but when I got hurt, because I tore my ACL actually last year.
Yeah, you can't rely on your legs.
Can't rely on my legs, and so when I was getting back into jiu-jitsu after PT, I didn't want anyone touching my leg, and I was really, I'm you know what's a good pin where my knee is far enough away from them, and I could still attack north-south. So I got really good at that, and it's nice.
Gotcha.
Very nice to get guys in it too, because they're nah, this isn't real, and then it's they tap. So, but
least favorite position to be in?
All of them. Anything on the bottom. A lot of time
with dudes being smashed. So.
Yeah. So I think I'll go with the hardest move, the hardest pin to get out of, and the most uncomfortable would probably be for me side control, honestly. Really, yeah, because with mount, I still can bump and turn onto my side, and I can start pushing their legs. Yeah. I can break their posture down with when I have them in my closed guard. Again, I still have some submissions. Side control, I can't turn in because their shoulder is driving across my face, and part of my escape is trying to turn into them and trying to frame. And sometimes it sucks sucks.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just very hard for me right now to implement my escapes just because like they have that arm underneath your head anchoring themselves to you. It's hard. So I just don't like it.
With Chelsea. She doesn't like side control. I just hold her there. It's like I can't move.
I know it sucks.
You're staying here.
Yeah, but again, it's like I eventually do like get out, but it's painful and it's very painful. I know that's the point. So, but I just don't like being there. I think because it's just harder for me to turn in, and that's like I feel like the only way that you can start an escape from side control is by turning into them.
Gotcha.
And then it's like you're also having to worry about being mounted, and so I feel like when you're in bottom mount, even though you're getting smashed too, like you can still turn sometimes. Like you can still turn onto your side and start initiating your escapes.
And I feel like you can swim pretty well from bottom mount too. So
Yeah. Well, depending on your size. Yes, me probably not. I mean, I can sweep like the teenagers, but yeah, that would probably be that. Yeah.
So last question.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking back on your younger self, think of a time that was particularly rough. What is something, if you could like step into a time machine and give yourself a piece of advice, whether it's jiu-jitsu advice or something you learned from jiu-jitsu or anything you learn now, it'd be cool if it was jiu-jitsu so we can stay on topic.
Yeah.
What is a piece of advice you would give yourself at that darkest moment in your life and sometime in the past?
I mean, as cliche as that sounds, because I actually have one exactly in my mind, and it wasn't too long ago, actually. So it was before I started jiu-jitsu, and I would just tell myself, like, it's going to get better, even though, and I know it sounds really cliche, like, it's going to get better, like, I promise. Like, no, it really will, and it's like, you're stronger than you know. And I've never found that out more than after I started jiu-jitsu. I really didn't think that I was like super strong. I never really lifted weights like in high school. I mean, I did ballet and jazz, and even though that has its own strength to it, could I bench press somebody off of me? No, of course not. And I think just I would say to myself, you're tougher than you realize, and you're going to be tougher than in this moment right now. And you're going to be a badass too. And you're going to do like, really good things, and you're going to have a good group of friends. So just, things are going to get better for you. So, yeah. But I know it's hard to see that. And anyone that is in that dark place right now, it's really hard to see that because you're in it and you're going through it. But, there is the other side of it. You just have to get to the other side.
That's true. You got to keep working towards the other side.
Yeah. But jiu-jitsu helped me out with that a lot. Kind of like side control, You just got to keep inching a little bit.
Framing.
But yeah, I honestly think jiu-jitsu helped me a lot. And it was, when I moved back here, it was not in the good mental space. And it was honestly either jiu-jitsu or therapy. And so I was like, well, jiu-jitsu is way more fun. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is like way more fun. Yeah, I know. No. Please get it. But no, it's, it really helped me, start over.
Mental pain for physical pain.
There you go.
Yes.
Now I feel better.
Now I feel better.
And I can escape it.
Yeah, it's just, it really helped me through that tough time that I was dealing with. And my life got so much better. Like, it completely turned around better than I could have ever thought it would be. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, with all that being said, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
So, not very many places.
Well, I guess just to make it more narrow, where can people find you if they want to learn the art of jiu-jitsu?
To learn the art of jiu-jitsu. That's a horrible Brazilian accent. I know, it's like really bad. So I, as I said before, I co-run a school with Werther. So our school is Fellowship Jiu Jitsu Sarasota. It's located in Sarasota. So you can, we're located there, and so you can always just look us up. Our school is on Facebook, Google, you can search it. Me personally, I'm on Instagram still, at CBroxBJJ. Very original, I know. So I'm still on there, sometimes I'm trying to move away from social media a little bit, just for the mental aspect of it. It just wasn't healthy for me when I got hurt. So I moved away from it, and I've actually been really good. It felt like really good. So we're available there. Also, you might see me on a couple of Werther's videos on his YouTube channel.
Yes.
We're not talking about that video.
We're not talking about it, but yes.
Yes.
You
can find them. They're there. And his channel is Robot Dolphin on YouTube. And he's also on Rumble as well.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. And then just please, when you search Robot Dolphin, you have to put Jiu Jitsu, unless you want to see videos of robotic dolphins. If that's your thing, that's great. And then not judging, but yeah. But just search Robot Dolphin Jiu Jitsu, and he has a lot of good videos, technique videos, and like instructionals. Also, just Jiu Jitsu like talk videos, like just different. They're not bad, They're all right.
I see a lot of them.
Well, yeah, you see I know. I hope you every single one. So, but yeah, so Fellowship Jiu Jitsu Sarasota, C Brox BJJ on Instagram, and then Robot Dolphin Jiu Jitsu on YouTube. So, yeah. But thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so you guys are awesome.
Told you what it's all about.
I know.
You
This
didn't
is
even
fun.
get trashed.
Yeah.
I know. This is
Can
fine.
you imagine if we were actually drunk?
Oh my God, it would have gone
things that would
way.
come out of my mouth.
I was gonna say the things that would have come out of all of our mouths would not have been
You're gonna
suitable
have to pay
for.
that one.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink.
Oh yeah, there you go. The or like
I haven't
not
had a
really
drink in like
uncensored,
over
but
90 days.
Oh yeah.
you poor thing. I'm just kidding.
No, I feel-
I'm just
I feel
kidding. I'm just
fantastic.
kidding. I know. No, it's good.
Great.
Well, that you just actually today you just competed in a
I'm so-
team
I'm
strongman competition. So
And you got second place. You got second place, which was awesome. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome for never really being a strongman person.
And it's funny, like I went there and to watch my other friend, and then I didn't know that you were there, and I was like, hey, like what's up? So it was really cool to see like both of you guys like compete in something like that.
Yeah. Did you see my hyper focus and like my
but which makes me very worried. I'm like, when you get really good at jiu-jitsu, oh my gosh, he's gonna be like such a beast. Yeah, I'm gonna be excited, but I'm not gonna roll with you. I'm like, you can roll with everybody else. No, I'll still roll with you, so it's fine. But no, I'm really looking forward to both of you guys actually improving, because you're gonna be a beast too, Mark. Yeah.
I like big legs. We have big legs.
Yeah.
Tree trunks, team tree
Tree-
trunks.
Yeah.
Should get that on a
Should get
t-shirt.
that on a shirt.
Sure. Team
Trunks.
tree trunks.
Dinosaur legs? Was it dinosaur legs or tree trunks? Team dinosaur legs? Team dino legs. I like dinosaur legs.
I like tree trunks.
Team tree trunks.
Tree trunks are more like
Yeah.
accurate.
All right. Fair enough.
Because dinosaurs have different legs. You have to specify.
Yeah.
T-Rex legs. T-Rex legs.
Okay.
Their legs are huge.
Yeah, I know. But
Tiny
not their.
arms.
You know, for the kids, when we have a good wrestling stance, we tell them like T-Rex arms.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at MCOX91. And yeah.
Gotcha. And you can find me at Echelon Media on Instagram. And basically, I just hang out with these guys all the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, I see a lot of this content because I'm constantly producing for these guys. This is the decision I've made in my life, is just to push this legacy out there. But
It's a good decision,
You
and
can
honestly, we appreciate it a lot.
Yes.
Like, thank you so
Yes,
much.
I do.
Yeah.
You can find us also on YouTube at
Fittest.
And, you can
For
find
this
us- yeah, for this
podcast.
podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on
Spotify.
and Breaker.
Yeah,
Breaker and Anchor.
Yeah.
And you can find this podcast also on Instagram at Fittest Podcast.
Yeah. And you'll see it on
There you
YouTube.
go.
If you want to see us talking smack, I'm pretending to have Brazilian accents.
Really bad Brazilian accent.
Watch it. Sounds like a sneeze.
Like,
Anyways,
watch it.
We're going to do a
I'm
video
sleep
with my
deprived.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump accent.
I'm sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Mark is exhausted.
Yeah,
His body's starting to
Yeah,
spasm.
my body's
Yeah.
starting.
I've held these guys
And-
hostage basically all day.
And I'm just hungry.
needs-
So
yeah,
I'm
Chelsea's
just going
hungry.
to. Always hungry.
So we're gonna wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. If you happen to learn anything off of this, by all means, reach out to us. Shoot us a DM if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. By all means, put that in the comments as well. If you happen to like this. If you hate this, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button twice to really let us know. And
Give us
of
a
course,
5-star rating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Give us a rating.
Yeah.
Definitely
It
rate
really
these
helps
guys.
to push this stuff out there. So if you like it, maybe there'll be some other people like you who will like it as well. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us on Florida's Fittest. My name is Mark.
Mark.
And Chelsea.
Chelsea.
It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 All right.